Welcome everybody to Matt Bajerski. Let's talk live. This is 13th of August. I got it right this time. Welcome. What are you wearing today, Mark? I'm wearing a nice piece of hematite and also a lovely tektite, moldavite, Herkimer diamond. Yes, a lot of stuff happening right now. Have you ever heard of this guy?
Made river irrigation. How are your reporters selected? How many languages does your Africa correspondent speak? French, English, that's all. Swahili, Hausa, Yoruba, Amharic, they don't know. They can't talk to the people. Your sources are always the same. Western diplomats, NGOs, experts, and then you come and lecture us. They killed Patrice Lumumba, January 12th, 1961. CIA agent Larry Devlin confessed. Belgian mercenaries executed. They dissolved his body in acid, took his teeth as souvenirs. In 2022, that tooth was returned from Belgium to his family after 61 years. And what did you say then? Chaos in Congo. You didn't ask about the killers. You didn't investigate CIA documents. You didn't write about Belgium's crime. They killed Thomas Sankara, October 15th, 1987. My hero, Africa's hope. Vaccinated 2.5 million children against measles and meningitis. Planted 10 million trees. Raised literacy rate from 13% to 73%. Gave equal rights to women, banned FGM, ended corruption, sold Mercedes cars, used Renault 5, rejected IMF and World Bank. And most importantly, he said, we will not pay Africa's debts. We didn't make those debts. The puppets before us made them on behalf of colonizers. That's when he had to be killed, and they killed him. Who killed him? His best friend, Blaise Compaoré. With whose support? France. One proof? Look at the Foucault archives. Jacques Faucard, France's Africa Affairs advisor. Everything is written there. And what did you say? Military coup in Burkina Faso. You didn't write about Sankara's dreams. You didn't tell about his projects. You didn't show his successes. You just said, another dictator died, Muammar Gaddafi. Yes, he was a dictator. Yes, he was ruthless. But what had he done in Libya? Per capita income, $12,000, Africa's highest. Literacy rate from 25% to 87%. Life expectancy from 51 to 74. Free healthcare, free education, $50,000 for newlyweds, interest-free loans for home buyers, $5,000 for new births, gasoline 14 cents per liter, great man-made river, irrigation project to green the desert, and Gaddafi's real crime, dream of United States of Africa, African Central Bank project, African Investment Bank, African Monetary Fund, and most dangerous, gold dinar, refusing to sell oil for dollars. October 20th, 2011, lynched in Sirte, Hillary Clinton laughed. We came, we saw, he died. Now look at Libya. 3 different governments, endless civil war, ISIS, Al-Qaeda running wild slave markets exist. Even CNN showed in 2017, oil being looted, weapons depots emptied, spread across Sahel. Do you call this democracy? Do you call this freedom? Do you call this success? And whose turn is it now? The Sahel, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. You want to make us Libya too. You want to make us Syria. You want to make us Iraq. But not this time, because we've awakened, because we've learned, because we've united. Operation Barkhane, France's Sahel adventure, 2013-2022. Official purpose, fighting terrorism. Real purpose, resource control, 5 through 100 French soldiers. €1 billion annual budget. Or free healthcare, free education, $50,000 for newlyweds, interest-free loans for home buyers, $5,000 for new births, gasoline 14 cents per liter.
So, yeah, you all can clearly see there that's all generated by AI. But the truth, that is the truth there, put into a small segment. And this is a guy in Africa. I watched a couple of videos in the past, couple of years ago. I don't know if you know, but there's a vehicle that runs off water, and it's not like something like an absolute joke. It's a hybrid, beautiful vehicle. This guy, as you think Donald Trump, one attempt, this guy has had numerous attempts on his life, and anybody who tries to talk about this is killed by the West. And you wonder, you know, who really is the bad guy in our world. And the more you look into life and understand life, you realize that the bully in the playground at school, he's never gone. He's always there. The bully is always in the playground. Doesn't matter which playground you're in, which country you're in. The bully controls this world. It controls all the oil. It controls all the water. It controls everything. And the layer of darkness and deceit is incredible in this world. So you can say that the veil has been lifted. I could have said that 5 years ago, and yet it continues. And the hard thing for those that I think, I don't know if any of you have seen that video with, is it Jud, G-U-N-D, the guy who talked about, I think I posted it. He talked about dangerous people. I don't know if I've got it anymore. Let me see if I can find it.
Haz tu banca más simple con Revolut. Vincula tu Bizum con un clic. Accede a cajeros sin comisiones y mucho más.
With everything happening in the world, whether it's conflict, hunger, emergency, it's hard to know where to start.
After the desperation, there's a discovery Carl Jung made that he considered so dangerous. He buried it in his private notes for decades. It wasn't about mental illness or psychological disorders. It was about people who possess an ability so extraordinary and so socially destructive that Jung spent years trying to understand whether it would save humanity or destroy the individuals who possessed it. Jung called them the ones who see everything others miss. In his clinical practice, Jung documented patients with what he termed differentiated perception. These weren't psychics or mystics. They were ordinary people with an extraordinary and terrifying gift. They could read micro-expressions that others couldn't detect. They sensed hidden emotions radiating from people like heat from a fire. They perceived psychological patterns and unconscious motivations with startling accuracy, seeing through social masks as if they were made of glass. They walked into rooms and immediately felt the psychological atmosphere. Who was lying? Who was drowning in secret pain? Who carried hidden resentments that poisoned every interaction? These individuals detected it all, instantly and involuntarily. Jung called this discovery dangerous because every single one of these patients ended up the same way, isolated, exhausted,
lonely,
and unable to maintain normal relationships.
Totally.
Not because they were mentally unstable, but because seeing everything came with a psychological cost that no one understood.
Hallelujah.
The case that revealed everything began in 1913, during Jung's own psychological crisis following his devastating break with Freud. A patient came to him representing what Jung would later identify as the rarest personality type on Earth. She possessed what he called undifferentiated intuitive perception, and she was slowly being destroyed by it. She could walk into any social gathering and immediately sense the psychological undercurrents that everyone else ignored. The depression hiding behind forced laughter. The desperation lurking beneath confident presentations. The unspoken tensions that made groups unconsciously uncomfortable, but that no one could name. Jung wrote in his private notes that she displayed an extraordinary capacity for perceiving unconscious contents in others. But this faculty caused her considerable distress rather than advantage. She couldn't engage in small talk because she saw through every social facade. She couldn't maintain friendships because people felt exposed and uncomfortable around her, as if she were reading their most private thoughts. She couldn't hold employment because her mere presence disrupted what Jung called the collective unconscious agreements that keep groups functioning smoothly. Jung realized he wasn't treating a mental illness. He was observing what happens when the unconscious becomes too conscious, when perception becomes too differentiated for social survival. But Jung discovered something even more disturbing about this patient's condition. Her perceptions were impossible to dismiss because they were consistently, startlingly accurate. When Jung carefully verified her observations about other people through subtle questioning, they proved remarkably precise. She wasn't delusional or psychotic. She was demonstrating consciousness so advanced it had become socially dangerous. Jung began investigating what he called participation mystique, a psychological phenomenon where individuals with highly differentiated intuition become overwhelmed by absorbing unconscious contents from everyone around them. He wrote during his Red Book period that there are those among us whose psychic apparatus is so finely tuned that they absorb not merely conscious communications, but the entire unconscious atmosphere of their environment. Modern research has validated Jung's early observations. Dr. Elaine Aron's work on highly sensitive persons shows that roughly 20% of people have heightened sensory and emotional sensitivity. But Jung identified something far more specific and rare within his psychological typology. The introverted intuitive type, comprising roughly 1% of the population,
1%.
who don't just feel deeply but perceive unconscious patterns with frightening clarity. Jung observed that these individuals possess what he called a differentiated intuitive function. Their brains process not just obvious social cues, but unconscious emotional states, repressed psychological content, and behavioral patterns that remain completely invisible to others. They see the depression behind forced smiles. They sense the desperation beneath confident presentations. They feel the collective shadow that groups unconsciously agree to ignore. Jung wrote that the danger lies not in the perception itself, but in the psychic isolation it creates. When one sees clearly what others cannot or will not see, one becomes a mirror that society cannot bear to look into. This creates what Jung called the problem of superior function, when your greatest psychological strength becomes your greatest burden because it separates you from normal human connection.
I'll stop it there. So, I haven't studied this guy. I'm not somebody who studies. I'm somebody who just gets on and does his work, and an 80s lad. And you know, at school I never learned much. The reason why is because I could see through all the bullshit, and I knew what I was doing was wrong. How many of you out there can relate to what this video has just put out? So when I said 5% of the world really truly understands what's going on 5 years ago, you will have noticed that it's come down to 1%. You've heard me say it, right? 99%. There's only 1%. And reassuring, listening to that, I haven't gone crazy. And being in a room, sat with a group of people, knowing about each person's emotion. Just look at all my old videos. All on them videos, I explained that I was in a room with a group of people and a so-called spiritual medium was taking the class, and I could see through his bullshit so easy that he tried to kick me out. He wanted me out, didn't want me there. He said I was a troublemaker. And I said, I've just asked a question. And everybody looked at me and they all thought I was crazy, and you know, they all were on his side. And I realized that the bully can easily manipulate people with fear. So he was bullying me, and everybody was frightened because they were frightened because what would he say to them and embarrass them in the room? But the thing is, he didn't embarrass me. He didn't frighten me at all, because I could see straight through his bullshit, his lies. And then he challenged me because I challenged him. Why did I challenge him? Because I just wanted to know what he said was real. So yeah, he challenged me, and I didn't back down, and it wasn't a challenge. I just said, that's not my gift. My gift is to feel. And then I just said, the lady opposite me, if you don't mind, I'll explain how you're feeling today. And they all said, oh yeah, tell us, Mark, because they'd heard about my work. So I went round the whole of the room, and I told each person what I felt about their emotions, their pain, their physical issues, and every single one of them cried. At the end, when I'd finished, they'd all cried, and I got up and left. And I said, you're a fraud. And he was a fraud. So we are dangerous. We're dangerous because we feel, and we know, we can smell bullshit. We can see through the lies and the manipulations. That's why we were attacked 5 years ago. That's why I was attacked 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I was attacked all the time. I'm attacked daily. We're attacked because we see through the bullshit, and there's nothing they can do to stop that. And darkness knows this. And what Judd talks about is only one aspect. He's not talking about what we know to be true as the conscious soul. And that soul of where we come from is different from other souls, where they come from. And plus the fact there are bodies in this world with no soul at all. So does that make them bad? No. Just makes them easy to program. There is no soul attached to it. Everything comes with a soul. No, it doesn't. Not every body comes with a soul. And I believe wholeheartedly that NPCs, what are called NPCs, or the backdrop people, these people who just eat, drink, sleep, and work, and when you talk to them about something that you know to be true and powerful, they look at you with an empty glaze in their eyes, as if you don't know whether they have no clue of what you're saying or whether they just think you're crazy. That is somebody with no soul. And when you ask these people, when you talk to yourself and have a conversation with yourself, what do you say? And you find they look at you with an empty glaze again, because they have no idea what you're talking about. Because your soul talks to your brain, and you have a conversation all day from your soul to your brain. You see, your soul, your spirit, is actually the guiding force to the body. But because darkness knows this, evil knows this, monsters know this, bullies know this, they have to find a way to try and sever that connection to your trueness, to you, the spirit. And that's why they cause mayhem and chaos. And that's why they're called dangerous. It's just something I find very interesting. One thing he did say there is that it's dangerous because, not just because of the evil that knows this, but it's also dangerous for us, because what he saw as dangerous, we see as everyday life. Loneliness, frustration, the pain that we feel daily, the conversation that we have all the time with ourselves, and knowing that we're in a world with very few people who truly understand us. So, and they never will. And that's why there's always this fight. That's why there's always this separation, because we cannot be fooled. We cannot be brainwashed. We cannot be hijacked. We cannot be there's little darkness can do to us. It can put us in prison. It can beat us and punish us. But the one thing what frustrates darkness is that it can't do anything to stop us from being truthful. The idea of being hypnotized, we can't be hypnotized. It's impossible. And that's why I take the average of 20 people up on stage when Paul McKenna's just about to take them through the process of hypnotism, and he realized that there's one person that he can't, or two, and he sits them down. It's kind of an observation. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea, but my feeling is that this is the same thing with darkness trying to trick certain souls in this world. So I find that fascinating every day. What do you think? What's your thoughts on it? I think it's challenging when you walk into a supermarket and realize that all the food is poison. But it's also really challenging when you realize that no matter how many times humanity is fooled by darkness, by elites, by the club, by Illuminati, whatever you want to call these monsters, the government, the system, what's heartbreaking to us is we know that they'll be able to do it again. And those that fell for it will fall for it again. Just repackaged, redesigned, remarketed. So it's a difficult one. What do you do with that? It's just food for thought. But it's good to hear somebody who recognized that. But not just recognized it, actually realized how important it was. So when you start to feel bad about yourself and you think that you're a black sheep and that, you know, I wish I didn't have these emotions and why do I feel so much? You have no idea how powerful you are, because the darkness sees you as an absolute threat. So maybe you'll change your way of thinking a little bit and realize that you are extremely powerful and rare. And also, it's probably best not communicating with those that are brain dead morons, because you can never win an argument by what you feel with them, because they don't have a consciousness. They just have a brain. They've been trained from a child and done everything that their teachers programmed them to. Then they went to college and then they went to university. And you're arguing with these people that have no connection to anything that I've just talked about there, or Judd speaks about. They have no clue. They don't see it as anything other than hogwash. There's not a moment that they think that that's important. Why? Because they see themselves as important. Their brain is important. They don't see it like we see it as a tool. And actually our brain can be very detrimental and very, very challenging for us, because sometimes the brain tries to take over. There is no full stop with your brain. It just wants to continue, and you tell it to shut up because you are not the driving force to this body. But when you have 90, 95, 98, 99% that literally don't have a consciousness, a soul, and maybe the ones that do have souls that are not like us are what I consider to be the monsters of this world. So they are equally very, very dangerous, but in a negative aspect. So they want to feed from us. They want to cause pain and suffering because their energy is negative, whereas your energy vibrates, and it should vibrate on a positive energy. However, these monsters realize that they can easily change your energy from positive to negative. That's why they cause pain and suffering. That's why they stop you going out. That's why they do everything they can to make you sick, because they feed from that, because that's their home world, which is a negative energy. Your home world feeds from love. So you will hug somebody and receive good energy. And thus we go to a point where there's a woman who talks about good energy. See if I can find her. Let's just play this, shall we? See if I can get it. Just give me a second.
Was if you sit within 25 what they found was if you sit within 25 feet of a high performer, your own performance improves by 15%. Here's the kicker. If you sit within 25 feet of a low performer, your own performance decreases by 30%. This means that our negative emotions are more contagious. That if you're around people who are low performers, whatever that means to you, who have negative cues, who are feeling anxious or tired or low confident, you could catch those cues and that affects your own performance. This is why it is incredibly critical to invest in the 5 people who you spend the most time with. You want to make sure those 5 people are the cues you want to catch. Do you like the cues they're sending? Do they give you the right motivation, feelings? Do they make you feel liked? Do they make you a better version of yourself? We can literally smell fear and we catch it. And that is also why it's really important to follow our gut. What they found was if you sit within 25 feet of a high performer, your own performance improves by 15%. 5 feet of a high...
Okay, so I don't know if any of you have ever heard of a guy called Jack Canfield, something like that his name is. I think he was one from The Secret with Bob Proctor and Lisa and all of the others. Well, Jack Canfield, way back in the days when I first started doing my healing work and psychic work, I noticed something with all of them on The Secret. They were all talking about exactly the same way as this lady's talking. And it's a way that will capture the audience of CEOs, of big corporations, of people who are not like you and I, because we know that what they're saying is not true. And I'm not saying what she's saying is not true. Just bear with me. So I had this argument with a friend last night. I come on here now and start talking to you, right? Or hang on. Try it another way. Yeah, well, I'm just exaggerating. I start talking to you. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Listen, I wanted to talk to you about something, and I want you to listen to this because it's really important, right? So my friend told me that right now what's trending is in the world of marketing and selling, you know, AI selling, this is the highest performance, all that bullshit that I can't cope with, right? This is what you have to do. So what they're doing now is picking anything up and talking to people. So you'll see it now. They're the ones who are all programmed. They're not telling the truth. They're doing it out of lies and manipulations. Now, my friend says, no, it's just another way of bringing the audience. And, you know, you talk about crystals, you'll hold a crystal. You know, I'll talk about a crystal and hold a crystal, right? And I'll say, yeah, but the difference is I'm talking about a crystal. They're just holding anything up talking to people because they want their attention. Because apparently, psychologically, psychology says that if you're talking to somebody, you've got something in your hand, you guys are watching what I've got in my hand and you're captivating the audience. Bullshit. Not interested. On your bike. That's what I say. Okay. But where I'm coming to is this, right? This lady is doing the same thing. What she's talking about is something that she knows the whole world will listen to, right? So let me put into real words, and this isn't ego, this is truth, right? This is truth. Let's break this down, but let's do it so that we're not feeding the majority of people, so we know we're capturing an audience and funneling them to her site. So you're listening to her because you're interested, like Jack Canfield, when you really get to the root of what Jack Canfield does, you go, hey, Jack, you're a cheeky bastard, aren't you? Why? Because you're talking spirituality, and everything you know about spirituality is exactly what you're moving to one side and bringing in something else to capture the audience of people that don't believe in spirituality. Ain't that right, Jack boy? They don't like it, but it's true. That's a sneaky bullshit trick. This is a sneaky bullshit trick because she's not telling the truth. She's telling these things that sound good for people that ain't going to listen to people like you and I. And I don't like that. So let's listen to it again.
What they found was if you sit within 25...
Who's there? First of all, who's there? Now, why she did that is a clever, sneaky trick. When you say they, you then have a disclaimer. I didn't say anything. They said it. Who the is they? Right? They on your bike. So they, meaning I didn't say it. I just read it. Okay, so you haven't got the balls to say the truth. Okay, sorry, but this is what you need to hear. All of these things are true, but it's half-truths.
feet of a high
Start again, sorry.
performer, your own performance improves by 15%. 55 feet of a high performer, your own performance improves by 15%.
Okay. You are a battery per se, right? There is no doubt about that. Whether you vibrate at high frequency or not depends on your physical, mental, and emotional. So as a pure energy healer like myself, I always teach, don't heal somebody if your energy level is too low. If your energy is too low, I prefer to go and sit down like a doggy does, don't eat, drink water, and rest till my energy is high again. Now, there are people out there that don't do that. People out there who energy level is low will deliberately go out to the family and friends and they will sit with them, and their energy, which is maybe 50%, they will find somebody whose energy is 100%, and they will go straight to them and they will literally feed to get their energy up, right? That you could call them psychic vampires. I don't like that word, but I do say that we are all radiators and drains at some point. That's no doubt. So I'm not saying I don't want to give anybody energy, but the fact is that if I'm around somebody who's feeling really low, my natural instinct inside this spacesuit is to give to somebody to raise their energy higher. That's why you will sit with somebody who's crying and feeling down, and at the end of it, you'll cuddle them, you'll make them feel good, but as you cuddle them, you're feeding them, their energy rises because that your energy goes straight to their heart and feeds that battery life so that they go away and you feel drained because you were 100%, but now you're down to 50. You've just given that person 50%. They're up to 100. They walk away laughing and feeling great. This lady's not telling the truth. And this is why, right? No, speak the truth. But then they don't. They're frightened of losing clients. They're frightened of becoming, that woo-woo, spiritual, new age bullshit. All of them words mean nothing to me. Nothing. I just know the truth. I know what energy is. I've worked with it for 20 years. I've seen it with my eyes. I see it happening every day. I see people that have been, and I see their energy and how erratic it is. And so I know what's going on here. So let's continue with what she's saying. Basically, what she's saying is just what I've said, but I've said it in a way that you all understand. What she says, you don't understand. She's just giving you these bullet points, but wow, this is amazing. But it isn't amazing because you're not telling anybody anything. You're just sharing little sound bites. And I don't like that. I want to hear the truth and what it really means. And I'm not being argumentative for you that don't understand me. I'm being passionate about something that we need to change in this world. We need to stop with the bullshit, trying to get more likes and to become this or that. Just be truthful and speak your truth.
Here's the kicker.
Here's the
If you
kicker.
sit within 25 feet of a low performer, your own performance decreases by 30%.
Okay, so if you sit with somebody who's feeling bad, your energy goes back. It's exactly what I've just said right there. She's just said the same thing, what I've just said. So I don't need to answer that, because the opposite is true, because they both work in tandem. So if I'm at 80%, I'm feeling great, and I'm with somebody who's at 100%, they're going to give me 10% of their energy without knowing, and I'm going to feel even better. And they're going to feel a little bit lower. All of this is documented as a pure energy healer for 20 years. I've shared this with the world for 20 years. But they won't tell you this information comes from energy healers. They'll tell you it comes from quantum this or science this. Bollocks. It comes from healers, and they won't say that. The Jack Canfields won't tell you that what he's talking about in its essence is spirituality, is being attuned, is using your consciousness, your spirit to connect and to talk to the spirit world and to create and to make things happen by way of not putting out to the universe, right? No, this is the spirit world. It's our world. Our world works alongside us, and they will help us if we ask. And sometimes it might take a little bit longer than others, but sometimes we don't need to ask every day. We just need to put that message. You're not stupid. You don't need to tell me twice. If I'm in the spirit world and I'm watching over you because I love you and I care for you, and if you say, like my daughter, if I left tomorrow, my daughter said to me, Dad, I miss you so much. I love you. You know, show me a sign. You don't need to keep telling me to show me a sign. I'll get a sign to you. The only problem is you're so much in grief that you never see all my signs. I'm like, you've just missed that one because you're in pain and suffering. So a healer who works with people who are passing into the spirit world, people who are lying down having a healing session, we see these things and explain. No, I write it in my book. Most people miss the signs. I know I'm going off on one, but in Diary of an Accidental Psychic, a woman comes to see me at the very beginning of my healing path, and she comes for a psychic reading. She wants to connect to it. Like, she sat down. I laid the cards down, put my hands over her hands, and I said, your husband's here. She's crying, right? I gave her all the information about her husband, so she knows I'm not full of shit. She never told me a name. No, I didn't ask for names. I didn't want to know names, but I could feel really strong. Her husband's right here. And he's telling me what you did. And I was telling her, like, you went and did this yesterday, and she's crying. And after that, I'm so thankful, because she's crying, and now everything that I just heard there just blew me away. This woman says, but Mark, I need a sign. I said, in my head, I'm like, are you fucking joking me? What I've just told you just then, are you joking me? In my head, I'm like, she said, I just want a sign. So this is exactly what happened. I'm in my little room. Behind me, there is a window, and the window is like this, and it goes from outside, it goes up and down like that. So I'm in an attic. So the little skylark opens, and it only opens a little bit, maybe about that much. It's only opened that much. So I sat there and I put my hands over us, and her husband was still in the room. And I said to her husband, please give her a sign. And no sooner did I do that, behind me, I heard a and what happened next was a ring-tailed dove was shoving itself, big fat dove shoving itself inside the room. And it pushes and pushes, and it comes inside the room, and it sits on like, it's difficult to see, but behind me, there's a window which is slightly open and it's raised into the ceiling. Below the ceiling, there's a rack where nobody can break into it. So there's bars and it comes in and sits on the bar. I turn round and there's a dove. Ooh, 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 ooh. My heart is beating like crazy. I'm like, wow. I've got all these thoughts and these feelings, they shiver, all of this, you know, like where your hairs go up, this feeling of my heart beating. And I turn and I pick this dove up. It did not fight. It sat on my hand and I held it like that. And I turned and looked at the lady with the biggest smile in my face. I went down the stairs. I opened the door and Susie, who I married to, said, "What the bloody hell?" And I said, "Don't ask." I walked outside and I let the dove go. And I came back upstairs. I had this big smile on my face. My heart was beating. I was feeling like this was the most amazing thing that's ever happened in my life. I sit back down and I look at her. And she says, are you gonna try and get me that message now? Are you gonna try and help me see the sign, Mark? And Arlene, who helped me write the book, said, I can just imagine you going around the room going, woo, 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 woo. But my point is, you can never show somebody a sign. You can never show anybody a sign. It's only up to them to see that sign. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I'm not dissing this woman. This woman's just a PR businesswoman. This is how to make money, to become a millionaire. Not, just seeing how to do these things and how to, psychology and manipulation, just give them a little taster of this and do that. I haven't time for that bullshit. I haven't time for that. I live in a world full of that bullshit. I like to hear people that speak the truth, talk the truth, and just be honest, just share it. And I am one who is honest about my work and what I see and I don't put it in a nice wrapped up package for you so it's comfortable. I don't go to corporations and say, yes, I can help you here. And I'll make sure I don't mention anything about the spirit world. I don't mention anything about my gift as a psychic. I'll just say, I am somebody who helps people at the CEO level in health and well-being and a life coach. Bullshit, mate. So that's my chat today. Cheers, everybody. I hope you have a lovely day. Take care of yourselves. Till tomorrow, I hope we don't get taken down. Love you all. Bye for now. Cheers.